Welcome everybody to the lecture of today, which is again part of the cycle of the lecture Leçons du Mardi, the Tuesday lectures organized by the school. This year organized by Ambra Fabi and me, for this occasion we have decided to, I repeat this every Tuesday, to invite a series of people that we have already invited to be part of the exhibition What is Ornament that was part of the Triennale of Lisbon 2019. We thought that this was a good occasion to expand some of the arguments that were touched in the exhibition and in the catalog. So that's a little bit the frame that we have for this series of lectures. For this, we are very, very honored this Tuesday to have with us, I would say, two architects, because if I'm talking about the path, how to say talking about the formation, and but which in a certain way enlarged their scope also of the discipline in different ways. So we have on one side Franco Raggi, which maybe if I start to present Franco, maybe I finish at the end of the lecture, because the number of activities, of projects, of contexts in which he has been during his practice, the years of his practice, are amazing. I mean, in the sense of the quantity and the sense of the quality. So I say, if I briefly go through, Franco has worked for Casabella, has been chief director of Modo. He has participated, and to go a little bit more into also the Lisbon exhibition, he was present twice, Franco, in the exhibition with two different works, which were the two pivots, the 2 points of reference of the whole show, so the beginning and the middle, because at the beginning of you will see it during the lecture. I imagine that we had the chance at the beginning of the exhibition to have a personal work of Franco, which is called La Tenda Bianca. And I don't say too much about that, but also present in the co-production together with Barghieri and Aldo Rossi of the movie Ornamento Delitto, which was the index of the somehow introductory video film movie for the Triennale of Milano of '73, curated by Rossi. So this is we say the two works. I mean, the Tenda Rossa, and which is the mother of the Tenda Bianca, and the movie somehow place Franco in two very rich contexts of the '70s in Italy. Not, I mean, two different contexts, which we can also say not with not a lot of connection among the two. No? On one side, the Rossi and the group of La Tendenza, and the other side, all the radical designers and architects. So maybe I imagine we will have the time to talk about this maybe later. I mean, we are always very interested in knowing more about your role into this context. And on the other side, we have Giaime Meloni, that I think you students of EAVT Paris-Est all know, because Giaime, apart from being architect, doctorate, PhD, and photographer, which is a main activity, I would say, in these days, is also teacher at the school. And I have to say that with Giaime, Ambra and I, and another group of teachers personally shared the best moment of teaching in the school, which are I already said this when I was presented the Jean-Benoît Vétillard, the how to say, les semaines intensives, so this inter-semester teaching limbo, I would say. I say limbo because these are moments in which we were able to experiment teaching forms which are non-conventional in school. And in a certain way, when I look at this, and then I look at what also Franco with the group of global tools were doing in the 70s, I think that there are many connections. So I think that there are many connections among the two guests, sorry, of today. Jaime was present in the show with a fantastic work that I imagine is going to show today, The Columns of Culture. So I would leave the word to Franco, the screen to Franco. The idea is that there is a double presentation, so we will have somehow two parallel presentations with, I imagine, but I don't know a lot about this. It's a surprise, a lot of point of contact. I think I again say I'm very happy that you both are here, that we could organize this strange format, which could be, I hope, the beginning of something. Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Franco.
So I start, okay. And I share the screen. Let me share, okay. Tell me if it's something that goes wrong. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, it's okay.
I put two words in this opening slide, ornament and decoration, because I think they're two sides of the same attitude. Because ornament is the first archaic attitude, human attitude, to upgrade, enrich, emphasize, or boost up ourselves, the body, the face, the objects, and the space itself. And the ornament that seems to be an useless in terms of functionality activity is very functional to reach a higher condition, or to simulate or to communicate something more or something less of ourselves, to scare the enemies, for instance, or to seduce somebody. Anyway, to change our state. Through ornament, we change something around us and in us. And the distinction between ornament and decoration could be, this could be a theme of the discussion, but because on my point of view, ornament is an additive action. Because through ornament, we add something to something else, using elements, ornamental elements, and so we add. By decoration, on the other side, is a pervasive mimetic strategy to cover, roll up everything. Through decoration, we have a superficial lean on the things, on the space, on the environment. So ornament could be considered centripetal because go on the objects. And decoration is centrifugal because it goes around the space. And the question definitely is if ornament is apparently an essential structure. Because we, in our mind, we consider ornament and decoration as something superfluous. That is, we can, I mean, Adolf Lohr says on this statement, ornamento delitto. I don't know this translation in English. And because at that time, going against ornament was going against conventionality, against statements, and proposing a new way to combine space and objects and the way of living in the space. But if we go through the activity in the project of Adolf Lohr, decoration was very important through the choosing of materials, the combination of volumes, and sometimes we can say that his space is completely unusual and very much keen with the idea of overimposing different things and giving through the essence of things superficial quality to the space. This just to say that my personal activity in this theme of ornament and decoration could start from a simple starting an ornamental infinite catalog around the planet, because there is nothing we can look around that is not this attitude specifically evident. These are only 8 images of a catalog, infinite catalog, that I suggest to everybody to collect, because in any of these images there is a different scale of application of the decoration and of the ornamental attitude. This is an architecture with doors. This is an Arabian interior. Sorry. This is a body ornament. This is a beautiful place in Milano, in which this place to sell fabrics, and the windows are always the same. Just change the fabric, but the idea of the fiocco, non so come si dice, this structure is always repeated in the window, just changing the fabrics. The last on the left is the Ndebele decoration system. It's a fantastic cubistic, futuristic system of this African people who decorate just the architecture, not the rest of the body, just the architecture. And on the other side, we have Mondrian that could become an enlarged decoration for a facade, or the bricks of an artist and a German artist who did this mud concrete interiors. And the last is a composition, a photomontage with lodge and stairs that becomes a functional decorative facade. But what is my problem? Because if I'm here today, probably because I had some problem with this idea of what is architecture and what is the meaning of a project when you start to build up something that has to do with history, with contemporaneity, with the languages, with the function, and how the design strategies could be combined to reach sense, not to reach shape or to reach style, but to reach sense in combining different images, projects, fantasies, visions, real objects, completely fake objects. And this image is very synthetic because it's myself when I was 28 with this T-shirt in a rainbow designed by Franco Summa, who was an artist that for all his life worked on this theme of the rainbow, building up installation objects, paintings, and always with this obsessive theme of the rainbow as a decoration system overimposed to every part of the environment, on the person, on the object. And so what I started to think, and unconsciously probably, was sometimes that the idea that the column and the Greek style was a statement, a very solid and conventional statement of quality in architecture. So I took the Doric temple and the Doric column, and I started to work on this conventional icon, producing different situations that could be installation project, can be object, can be just image. But on my point of view was an idea to explorate the relativity of languages, and starting from the function that languages have in communicate condition. And in my personal situation was a very doubtful condition, because I was coming out from the Faculty of Architecture in Politecnico di Milano, where there was a very strong vision or technological vision. I was a pupil for Franco Albini, or visionary attitude like Aldo Rossi Tendenza, that submitted architecture to this metaphysical vision and contemporary vision of the architecture as an autonomous discipline that cannot be faced with the evolution of technologies, of building technologies, but can ignorate completely this and posing in opposition to the idea that the technology, international style could be gave form to the city and to our environment. So can you imagine, and when I start out, the situation of doubt and was very, could be, I mean, disagreeable and uncomfortable, but also produce some vision. And the vision of the tent became real. And just I would like to know why Giovanni and Ambra decided that this object could be a very symbolic object for their exhibition, what is ornament, because this object is a contradiction in itself in terms of logic, because it's a poor object with a rich language, is nomadic as a tent, but is very stable in the image of the Greek temple. And so it was a kind of oxymoron, no? It's a living contradiction in an object. So I was very interested in this question of the style as a fragment, you know? Timeless sign can be fragmented and re-edited in different situations. So I thought that the styles in architecture could be something that, like an agent, you can sell around door to door to people. So I designed this valigia degli stili, that, and I realized it in mahogany with these pieces of linen painted with the Greek column, just to show how fantastic could be the Greek style. But if you want to have the modern style, you have to choose the white one that is on the right. So that is the decoration through the obsession of column as a icon, superstar, I don't know how to call it, but was passed through ironic, or maybe not ironic things, like the trousers Acropoli on this, that I didn't ever build because I was not able. Who could realize in velvet this garment in which le coste invece di essere così sono così, like in a column. But the idea that the Greek temple could be also have column-like column cans overimposed one to the other, and became a kind of pop contradiction between the stability of the Greek temple and the instability of food design, the can. The lamp was just an edition of the temple reduced, because I found that the inside could be illuminated and became a surreal kitsch object that now is very proud to be in the Beaubourg collection, permanent collection of design. And it stands there, and so people can realize how a design of the 70s could be at the same time horrible and fascinating, I hope. And so this theme of the Greek column as an ornament, as a symbol, as also an uncomfortable symbol, because this is a project of a bed in which the head of the bed had these stairs that goes to the entrance of a temple, and it became a tapestry, marazzo, carpet to hang to the wall. Or in these two cases, the column became a product, designed for fabric produced in Como as an endless colonnade. So the column became a conceptual artifact, no? Became a statement of infinity. So an endless colonnade on one side and a flat temple on the other side. This was the first apparition of the white tent in the 82 in Rome, then was bent in a drawer and disappeared and reappeared. Sometimes it comes out. The last The last performance was in Lisbon. Now is again in a drawer. These are the two situations. One of the situations before Lisbon was to hang it in a gallery. And here is wrapped on before the installation in Lisbon. And here was the opportunity that Giovanni Ambra gave to me to re-expose this object. And the thing that comes out, like every time the thing change, so the structure that usually was inside, this time I prefer to take it outside, to give more lightness to the object, because it's hanged to a structure that is outside from itself. And owing to the reason, because this is a place, is un luogo, inside there is something, and at the moment there was nothing to put inside. So I designed a little red tent on at the moment when I was there in Lisbon. I added this thing that was not provided to be there. Because when you design a space that contains something, you had to provide something inside. Otherwise, what have you done this space for? And so the tent became populated by a little red tent. So this archetype of the temple comes to my fantasy as a decorative element, as a paradoxical element to put in a straight contrast fight sometimes epochs and technologies and techniques. The caravan temple is the confrontation between two archetypes, the archetypes of nomadic for the caravan and the archetypes of the static for the temple. And these are two different drawings, a little one and a bigger one, done in the 74. In terms of what is decoration as a mean of communication. Decoration could be a provocation, can be a mean of to put in crisis the concept of the design. What is design? Design is to reach through the correct design procedure from function from form to function, from function to form, doing something that is coherent in this idea that design is a logic discipline. But in the 80s with Alessandro Mendini, we thought that design was not very logic discipline. And the good design, the good Italian design was something was reflecting to itself in a very narcissistic way. I don't know if this word is in English. It's okay. Self-referred, and so we took this statement, banal object is design, the real design in the world is the banal and the kitsch are the real state of the discipline in the world. The good design is something, a kind of high culture that would like to transform the lower culture in something better. We started from the lower culture and we chose about 30 objects from the around the shops and mall and magazines and not some, just one or two of good design, mixed it to the other 40, and we decorated them. So the decoration was just a way to bring all this collection into a provocative abstraction. All the normal objects exposed in the Biennale of Venezia as meaningful object of design became each one a statement of inutility, statement of provocation. The sprite, the little lamp from China, all of them could be defined not good, not nice, not beautiful, just normal, not normal in the total abstraction of no quality design. And the decoration would, the system, the provocative system to give to this object a new statement and posing the accent to the idea that the design was not a very a positive discipline coming from Heidegger, but should be something that was more devoted to study the anthropological contents of the design process. And the decoration became visible with the light was down, was a dark light and normal light in a cycle. So I can go faster with this random activity to the travestimenti, transvestites, disguise, ornamental disguise, using noble drawing, noble icon on normal things, or giving to architecture this idea that you can put on a blind facade, different styles, different elements of architecture to give them this new icon, but they are fake and they move on like on a stage design, like on wheels. Fragments, but I use fragments of plaster to do decorative fragments, recomposed in a different configuration. In this case, you see that one is piece of plaster that composed inside the idea, give the idea of a ionic column in an apartment in Milan. Or this, the idea of discontinuity as a mean of sense in the design, discontinuity in style and time, because a chair can be comfortable also if done with two different styles put together. And at the end, going to the decoration as a surface activity to produce a kind of, come si dice, una cortina, una surface, una superficie come dire, che abbia un'energia costante, perché la decorazione propone quest'idea, propose this idea, decoration, that a structure can be constantly repeated to give to the space, to the object, a kind of serenity. And decoration in this case became fabrics, silk fabrics to make a big surface for walls and to give all this technical, this element of my memory became a neutral surface, and also the face of the temple became a very, I mean, è una cosa surreale, to have a Greek temple in your bedroom on a wall, in negative, of course. So this is my personal random activity. I've reconstructed it just for this lecture. I try to collect all what in my work has this red line that connect this idea that decor, ornament, and decoration could be mean of expression and research and of making sense, maybe sense on my personal research. I don't think the sense could be founded somewhere else except in ourselves.
Thank you, Franco. Thank you very much. Very nice. Very nice.
Tolgo lo schermo.
And we leave directly the screen to Jaime. So we...
yeah,
no,
you have to share your screen.
Ok. Va bene così?
Sì.
Perfect.
So now it's my turn. Thank you, Giovanni Ambra, for this invitation. I have also to bring some. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Sure.
What is ornament was the title of the exhibition, but it's also a question about how I can do something about ornament after Franco say. So this is very difficult. Maybe I will start maybe with the video that I show at Triennale, and after we can speak about it, about this project, Columns of Culture, and that's it. I try to just show. So this was the video that I show in the first room of the exhibition, and at the same time it's part of a long-term project that I do since 5 or 6 years. And it's called Columns of Culture. It's more like a sort of visual research about 2 elements, 2 symbols of the Mediterranean culture. One is the column, the second one is the palm. So maybe you can see it also in the video, and it's very clear in this sense. At the same time, I think somehow this project was for me also an occasion to start a way to understand how I can do something with the images. And at the same time, when I saw the presentation of Franco, the stuff was ornament becomes something like a bidimensional disguise, something very that you can see, you can feel, but at the same time it doesn't build a space. I mean, yes, it builds something, but you can just make an ephemeral space. So this is, for me, maybe the starting point of how I can conceive also build images, build a project itself. Columns of Culture start, yes, 5 years ago, and maybe it's better to understand how I can work on this project from the origins, from the beginning. So the first point was when I have an assignment for the botanical garden in Cagliari, in Sardinia, in Italy. And so I started this work photographing palms and other plants. And so at this point, I become fascinated by palms. And I found in this botanical garden some elements that it was very curious for me. So I just start to think that it was interesting to understand a little bit more how I can work with this material, like palms. And at the same point, in this period, I was also interested about how a small insect called red palm wheeling was affected all the palms in the Mediterranean region. And for me, at this point, I was more interested by how I can work on this sort of relationship between palms and the columns in a way of just formal way. And the red palm wheelings, it was just a way to understand how this kind of insect comes from Asia, from another country, could be a sort of paradigm of our xenophobia in a way. So this was maybe the starting point of this project. And after I had the chance to go to Sicily to make the first exhibition, it was more about this aspect of how wood becomes stone. So it was columns of culture. It was the first idea of columns of culture, but in a way, it was how I can transform in a visual way the wood in stone. So this was the first idea, and in a way, I tried to translate in images, but I don't know if it was very stronger than I was in my mind. At the same time, I just figured out a sort of exhibition with blue fabrics that remind me also the color of the Mediterranean Sea. At the same time, I was in Sicily, so for me it was interesting also to explore a little bit more the Mediterranean region and understand more about how I can find other elements, other symbols of this common culture away from home. So at the same time, I go to visit the Giancarlo De Carlo project of the university, and I found there a lot of elements that inspired me for this project. So this is it just some images that I took in Giancarlo De Carlo project. First, third chapter of this project, I think there is some element that bring continuity in what I say. So the first one for me, it's I start to work in Sardinia, so it's one of the main islands of the Mediterranean region. After I moved to Sicily to make this exhibition, and after I had the possibility to go to Gerba, and I was so excited to go to Gerba because for me it was the first experience in Africa, and so for me the idea it was, yes, I have to spend this 10 days that I have for me, and try to make a lot of pictures. So I bring with me 3 cameras, but at the same time 2 brogues. So I finished the work with just one of the 3, and but at the same time I took some photos that are maybe interesting. So the first experience was, yes, this idea of a solitary palm that it's that, but at the same time it brings this idea of a symbolic element in the empty space of the desert. So this was very powerful images for me, and when I saw it, it was very interesting. At the same time, I found in Gerba some element that surprised me, because I think I can find some relationship with Donald Judd minimalism, also if I am in another party of the world. So at the same time, yes, I was maybe what I can see about Gerba was more than I just felt that there is also a geographic aspect when you are in a specific place, and so what I found was very was a sort of sensibility of what was a palm, what were a palm in this space. I mean, and at the same time, in Gerba, I found a sort of resume of what was for me columns of culture. So a sort of synthetic way to resume palms and columns in one element. And it was there, and I just took this photo, but at the same time, I think this one is maybe the more explicit images that explain what does mean for me columns of culture. In a way, I think columns of culture is just a project, a visual project that want to erase the border, to understand that we live in the same space. We share a lot of elements, and that's it. I mean, fourth part of this project was another exhibition, and at this point, so there is also a sort of chronological aspect in this project, that I start from the beginning with a very I don't know, in a way it was maybe something very intuitive, but at the same time this kind of work become a sort of obsession. And so I start also to collect images, to collect also books, to collect objects about columns, about palms. So now at home I'm full of columns, I'm full of book of palms and everything. So for this reason also I really appreciate the presentation of Franco, because it was full of columns. So now I'm a little bit obsessed about that. And these images try to translate a little bit more my idea of what is in my mind at this space when all the images are composed a sort of imaginary museum. So in this exhibition, my idea was also to translate in a three-dimensional way this sort of symbiosis of the two elements. In a way, the columns and the other, the palm. So what I tried to do was this kind of sculpture. It was blue, like the blue of the Mediterranean Sea, but also the blue of the face of Pierrot Le Fou. So this was a sort of three-dimensional translation of what I feel, what I can make with this project. I mean, I try just to understand that the palms and columns are just two elements that become the same at one time. So at the same time, I make also a sort of newspaper that show what was for me columns of culture, and it was shown in the same exhibition, and with all the images that you see already see. So this was just to show to us. And after this exhibition in Les Balles in Paris, so it was very funny because the exhibition started 2 years ago, but after with the coronavirus and everything, the photo is still there in 6 in Place de la Défense in Paris. So it's very funny because I collect all the images of all the season of this panel that are outside the museum. And yes, the picture is made in Sardinia. It's 2 columns that are fake columns because they are put by the director of the archaeological site during the 60s. It was just to emphasize the role of this archaeological site in Sardinia to bring a new tourist. So in a terms, these columns are made just like as symbols, but are not part of the archaeological site, are sort of fake remake of what columns could be in this site. So there is something that this kind of symbols becomes a new attraction. So for me, it was also to understand that sometimes symbols, elements, this kind of artifacts could be also a sort of new new symbols for the modern culture. And that's, it's more about how now columns could be, and this is the real columns that are in I don't know if I can see this is real and this not, but it's just to bring some ambiguity between the two. And this is other column that you find in this archaeological site. Of course, I have also to show some palms because it's very important. Sixth chapter of this randomic experience about columns and palms. It was in Albania, in a small island that is called Sazan. And here it was more about the decay, more about ruins. And I found also different columns that are very different from the others. I mean, it's not about real archaeological approach, but are more about something that brings you a sort of memory from the past, but not a very ancient past. That's it's for me maybe something that bring me a new idea of what columns, what these symbols could make. And just to finish my short presentation, I think we are, it's a small homage to Jean-Benoît Bétillard, because I took this photo of his model, but at the same time, when he know about my project Columns of Culture, he offered to me 6 models of this palm tree. So I took this model, and after I just say, oh, what I can do with this model. And my idea was to make some basement of this one, according to also to the project of Piero Manzoni, Les Socles du Monde. So at the end, I made, I think, 20 different versions of what is a socle, what is this kind of basement for these 6 models. And that's for me a kind of just a 3-dimensional translation of what was for me also the idea of work on these 2 symbols. And I had the chance to present this project in this famous and very prestigious review that is called Carte Blanche, proudly made in Paris-Est. And at the end, I do just A3 with some images of from this project, and that's it. I think at the end, I just could say that for me, ornaments, for me, columns or this kind of symbols, it's more a sort of obsession. I think there is this idea of repetition that is very important for me. And I just felt that columns and palms are just a translation of what could be something about ornament and not decoration. That's is all for me till now. Maybe we just...
Thank you very much, Jaime, too. I think that the two presentations are very much connecting one to each other. And
you speak before, I think. This is the reason.
No. I think they're very much connected. Somehow they bring on the table your both your somehow personal obsessions, which are kind of universal on the other side, or the aim to be universal. Of course, now that this would be the moment in which we open the panel. I mean, the idea of this double presentation is the idea that there can be a dialogue among the two, of course, the two guests, plus the organizers, plus the audience. So that's the idea, and I invite everybody to participate to this to the debate. I think there are many things to know and learn from both the guests today. So I see there is a question, a written question here on the chat. Is it a question? Yes, it is a question. I don't know. You want to read it yourself, Franco? Everybody, or shall I read it?
Maybe you can read.
I can read it, huh? But Franco, you have to activate the microphone if you want to answer them.
Sorry.
So it says, "Dear Franco, thanks for sharing your astonishing work with us. I have a more general question regarding, for example, the writings of Ruskin and Morris, but we could think in many others. How do you see the social and political role of ornament or decoration, as you put, in your work? Thanks a lot, Gabriel, that we know." Hi, Gabriel. Thank you.
Social and political. My God. Yeah. I don't know. It's not my problem to see what is the social and political role of my work. I hope somebody else should solve this problem if there is any meaning in this. I just can say that my work starts from an original doubt. And the doubt is the engine that can move yourself because nothing should be sure. And I think that socially my work has to do with this mission that you can put in an object a message. And this message has merely to do with the way it's done, or the preciousness of the material, or the correct way in which it's built, but probably has much more to do socially with what induce you to think about the destiny of your action, you just think in your space and in your environment. And so any action, any creative action has a social destiny, but the quality is not probably only in the person who give this message, but the people who is able to get it. And now I realize, probably many years later, that something that I did at the beginning of my career was much more significant now than at the moment when I did it. When I did them, probably was a kind of hobby, because I thought that my work has to be committed with very important themes like economy, social function of our work as an architect, build the social buildings, and making things that had to do with improving of the quality of life in the city or the space in the house. And of course, these are two good proponimenti, attitude. But I realized later that the most significant things that you do, they are done when you don't think about them. And when you let them come out in a state of, si può dire, di trance. But, and this is probably the social meaning of our role. The political, I have no idea what, everything you do is political. As Online said, everything is architecture. I mean, what is not political? The way we react to this pandemic situation is political. And the way we try to put relation between things in terms of changing the attitude of person toward things is political. So if I design a carpet to represent an absurd situation of a nomadic bed in a surreal room, is, on my point of view, is political, because force people to think about the reason that forced you to do this. So the function, the most important function, I think, in human activity is art, because art is the more useless of all the thing we do. And art has everybody can say that we can fare a meno, si dice, fare a meno dell'arte. Fare a meno is we can avoid, because art is not useful. But art is the only moment in which a collectivity start to reflect to themselves condition without constraints. Però la domanda era difficile. Political and social. And aesthetical.
Thank you, Franco. I think very difficult question, but a good answer, I would say. Is there any other question like direct like this? I mean, I might have a question for Jaime, but yeah, I'd like to hear also other questions then. I mean, can we say that Jaime, your visual research on image is a sort of manifesto of Mediterranean architecture somehow, like, and then now I look at politics again, maybe.
I don't know if I can say Mediterranean architecture, but Mediterranean territory, maybe yes. I think there is something linked by a sort of geographical space that are very strong and important for me. So yeah, if I can answer to the question of Gabriel, also if it was for Franco, I think yes, symbols in a way produce something also in a political way. And so I think I can bring something political also in my project that is very is not in the first degree of the appreciation of the images, but at the same time I think this idea of erased borders to share in order to share also sort of different culture by the same symbols, for me is more than political. I think it's part of the human beings. So I don't know. I don't answer to your question, Giovanni, but but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know if I can bring architecture in this project, because I just see columns that are isolate elements, and not architecture itself. So maybe I have also to understand a little bit better what is architecture for me. And for me, in this project, columns are more symbols, are more than architecture itself, more than the tectonic aspect of the columns. There is more like something that are linked by with the culture, with the other elements. So that is for me maybe the problem with the architecture itself, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any question there from the audience? You can even write it as Gabriel did, which is the easiest way to make a question.
Also in French, maybe it's...
In French, yeah, in French, Italian, English, and German, Portuguese. I think that we can all this language we can in a certain way master more or bad, good or bad, in a good or a bad way. Okay. Yeah, for me, yeah, maybe I was pointing at this question at the beginning, but maybe, yeah, I think that you showed, Franco, many. Yeah, I mean, let's say I would say the masterpiece. If I think about, yeah, if you think about what the reason we invited you in the work, why we invited you at the What is Ornament exhibition, so which was originally the red tent, then evolved into the white tent. So there are many, we could talk hours about this, the story of the tent and the path of the tent. But indeed, I was telling before, I mean, you also worked in the preparation of the movie of Rossi at the time, which was the other masterpiece that we had the chance to restore with the Fondazione Aldo Rossi for Lisbon. And so, and then I think about this Triennale, you know, the Triennale of 73, in which, if I'm not wrong, is the first Triennale of Milano, in which also the disciplines are separated. You know, there is a Triennale of there is an architecture section curated by Rossi, and there is a design section curated by Sozzas and Branzi, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So is maybe where your two words, I mean, they are very close in the same place, but ideologically maybe not forcefully connected, or maybe distant on that side. So if you can tell something.
The first thing I can tell is that I have a kind of nostalgia of the very clear way in which the two positions were settled and were developed at the time. On one side, there was the radical architecture, the radical design. 73 was just the end, if you want, of the radical design, but the starting of global tools is like a didactic utopia. And on the other side, the tendenza. And I was involved by chance in the tendenza because I was never a pupil of Aldo Rossi, but I was fascinated anyway by this clear position, a kind of abstract poetical position in which architecture could become a kind of autonomous discipline with no compromise with technology in terms of submission, and with this idea that analogy, poetic visions, and memories could be very strong material for the idea of architecture you can propose. On the other side, the radical design was absolutely fascinating position of looking at the culture as a vital place in which creativity can be exercised, looking at the reality as it is. Bob Venturi, for instance, was at the time was very radical. The idea of learning from Las Vegas, the pop in terms of new mythology, new significant mythology in terms of architecture. And the idea that a magazine like Casabella could deal with contemporary art, behavior art, body art, and architecture and design all together, for me was a discovery. So I was in these two double position. About the film of Aldo Rossi, what can I say? As I told in Lisbona, the author is Aldo Rossi. Gianni Braghieri and me, we collaborated to set up the locations, the idea to make a collage. But the idea of the collage was typically the idea of Aldo Rossi. As he did the Città Analoga, he did the kind of filmografia analoga, collecting films, collecting memories and put them together. All, of course, memories that had to do with the kind of idea of architecture of the city, of the story, of how the man build on the planet. And the film is a very personal discovery, research of Aldo Rossi in this sense. So by chance, my name was in the title. And I don't consider myself the author of that film. Gianni Braghieri is more as a community, totally different, committed, addicted pupil of Aldo. He identifies himself with the Aldo poetry. It's not my case. In fact, after this episode of the Triennale, I decided to give my attention and my activity more to the radical area than to the tendenza, in which I was rejected because I was a kind of corpo estraneo, come si dice, because I was much more open than them to look around what was happening in the field of architecture. And anyway, I wrote about this, and in an interview on a magazine, French magazine, that comes out, lo dico in francese, perché Jadon tentait une médiation peut-être impossible entre ces hypothèses radicales, alors que j'ai participé en tant que rédacteur en chef de la revue Casabella au travail de l'avant-garde radicale. J'ai aussi accepté de collaborer avec Aldo Rossi à l'exposition internationale d'architecture de la 15e Triennale de Milan. Je dois dire que la proximité avec les groupes radicaux et la collaboration simultanée avec Aldo Rossi à la Triennale peut apparaître comme contradictoire. Pour moi, l'expliquer aussi, je crois que la tendenza di Aldo Rossi, aspetta che se condivido lo schermo lo vedete anche in francese, aspetta. Condivido lo schermo ma non riesco a muoverlo. Eccola qua. Ecco, pour moi, la tendance d'Aldo Rossi, l'architecture radicale, est une étude des attitudes d'opposition radicale, avec des fondements très intéressants et des faisons différents des opposés à la dérive technocratique, pas seulement une dérive technocratique de l'architecture, mais aussi de l'économie et de la société elle-même. J'ai choisi de partir au mouvement des arts radicaux qui ne me demandait pas de militantisme, la rigueur formelle, la fidélité au maître, ma plus un regard critique, une disponibilità à sperimentazione, un modèle culturel. Ecco, voglio dire, questa cosa qui forse spiega, stop share, ecco. Perché io credo che veramente Aldo Rossi sia un grandissimo architetto. Mendini diceva il più grande architetto italiano. Mendini ha detto che il più grande architetto italiano del XX siècle, c'est Aldo Rossi. Et je crois que c'est vrai, c'est une des plus grandes figures qui a proposé une imagination sur l'architecture complètement dégagée, libérée de la rhétorique de technologie et de technocratie. This is something that we need, not to be submerged by this idea that technology is driving ourselves, in all our choice. We should be very aware of this danger to believe that technology is positive anyway because it exists. Technology is a product of our science, but it's not always a product of our philosophy. And the philosophy should balance between this extra power and the extra optimism about using of technology. Not only in architecture, but in biotechnology, and anyway, everything is touching our life from very close. And so I don't know if this idea of a contraposition with why I was there in two positions. I try to explain this.
It is a fantastic explanation, also with the text and with the switch in French, that shows that you can talk French very well. Actually, we could have done it in French, but but is it true that maybe
I was reading?
Yeah, it's not from the Triennale maybe itself, but that's the moment in which. I mean, nowadays, if I want to become designer, normally I study design. If I study architecture, I will be. I mean, then both you and Jaime show that it's not true, totally true. But our society is somehow orientating towards this idea that I'd rather learn to do facades and become and do facade in the Norman Foster office. While before, a certain moment before, maybe before 68, I mean, there was one education, and this education was allowing a wide comprehension of the world and the possibility to then attack so many different disciplines, which are graphic design, which are design. I mean, but then there was a mother education, which was somehow the architecture.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So is that the moment of the split, of when we started to think that we.
But by the way, you quotate Foster and this idea of that architecture today is doing facade. In this perspective, we just can say that architecture, it becomes a very strictly decorative attitude, because if the architecture reduces itself to different texture in composition of surfaces, of three-dimensional or bidimensional surfaces, and ignore the quality of space, this is in negative term, the definition that we can give to the contemporary architecture as a decorative syndrome. Because it's important how the skin is and not how the body. I very seldom find archistar that is involved in the quality of the inner space of the dwelling. I mean, of course, not the same, but the general quality of architecture has this decorative attitude that is completely unlaced, slegata from the context in which they happen. So we now have the modern Milano, in which we are very proud of this. I'm not so proud, in which there are the three towers that could be everywhere else. I mean, it could be in Singapore, it could be while the quality of Italian architecture in the 50s, 70s, 60s, and 70s was this idea that our goal is to be in the context almost with in appariscenza, not to be seen. No, not to be seen is a very subtle quality to reach, because l'inappariscenza è secondo me nell'architettura della città è una qualità. That means that if you look carefully, you find the quality. But if you just pass, you have a kind of you are in a flood, and not with the big episodes of muscularity like is now the Three Towers in Milan. I mean, that's memorable.
That's the most post-war Milano rather than the contemporary Milano attitude. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just looking on the side. Yeah, there is a comment here from Ashley McCoy, who says, "Two fascinating talks. Thank you, both speakers. I loved Franco's phrase, a poor object with a rich language. And I wonder what both speakers thought about images in relation to imagining architecture, and how the making of objects within their practice influences their work." Thank you for the question.
Chi risponde prima? Giaime. Perché la domanda è come l'immagine influenza la vostra architettura o
come fare oggetti influenzi sulla nostra pratica. How to making of objects. Yeah.
Giaime does not make objects, really compose images that became objects. So
that's it. Yeah.
Poi c'è una domanda sulla
sometimes I just make set of, for me it's important also to understand that if I build an image, sometimes I play also with this kind of ambiguity. So I prefer to make some set. And so I build a space that I photograph after. So sometimes I also work in this sense. So I don't think for me it's making of object. I think I set the space. That's it's for me a way to making an object, if I could say in this way. Yeah, maybe just according to the small basement that I do, that it was just a sort of joke to understand how I can play with these small models. And it was also an exploration of, I can say, of archetypal forms. But sometimes, yeah, I prefer just to say that for me, I play with reality, so I can set the space to make a photo. That's it. So for me, this is the way to create an image, and that's it. According to what Franco said. So yes, from my side, I build images, but making object, it's part of this kind of trick.
And about me, I mean, can you repeat the question, Giovanni, please?
I think, Franco, it was what was our discussion before about drawings and about representation. I think for me, the final point of my project is to make an image. And for you, it's the starting point to produce an object. So I think we have two parts of our project that are linked, but we don't have the same aims. That's it for me, maybe the answer, maybe the silly answer to this question. But,
yes, we told this before the lecture. We talk a little bit, and where Giaime finish, I start, could be the synthesis. But I remember that I started from drawings, and drawing was something without client, no? So it's very important for me to build up a kind of inner necessity, inner committenza, come si dice, una committenza interiore.
being client of yourself.
Of myself. So producing a situation that could be nice to realize, but is not so important to do. It's also just important to imagine. Of course, when I passed through the process that brings from the drawing to the real object, something happened. That is the compromise with the conflict, the restraints of the reality, the technology, the technique, the material, and all this choice you have to do continuously. What will be better? What will be worse? This is okay or not okay? And this is the training that you have to do on yourself when you start to think as a designer or as an architect. In my career, I just built two buildings, but I'm much more interested in the things that I have not built. And as I show in my presentation, many of these things are fantasies. But these fantasies are always emerging when I have a real commitment, a real commission. And I think the idea comes out from the real condition of a place and of a situation, of a market, of a client, of a function on one side, and on the other side has to be enriched continuously by your free imagination. Has had nothing to do with the function, but much more with the symbol, with the mythology, with the all this quality that does not depend only on the materiality of the object. And this is the same approach that I had designing La Classica, that is a kitsch object, or La Flute from Fontanarte, that is a minimal lamp, because I was trying to make an exercise on subtraction. And what could remain of an image if you lift up everything you can, and a lamp became just a diagram. So this is a kind of an exercise, a procedure. And what I say always is I'm not interested in the final effect, but more by the procedure, no? The way in which you put together things, decide to change things. You start from an idea that is fragmentation or discontinuity or opposition, so the procedure is much more important than the final effect. Of course, the procedure brings you to an effect, final effect. And every time I have to do with a composition problem in terms of space or object, I start to think not to the function, but to something else. Of course, at the end, the things must function.
Thank you, Franco. I don't know if there are other questions. I think I don't see Claude at the moment, but normally this is the moment in which he says to us that we should stop. Claude, how we are with the timing?
1:25.
Yeah. Claude is indicating that we should stop, actually, from the top. I don't know if there are other questions, like the last on the, before we leave. Okay, if it arrives, I start to saying, how to say, remercier.
Ringraziare. Thanks.
Yeah, thanking. Yeah, I was trying to find the English word now. Yeah, I start thanking Giaime, Franco for these fantastic interventions. I think very much related. For me, yeah, I mean, I hope, again, as I was saying before, hopefully a beginning of a friendship. I mean, of course, we didn't meet in presence, but the best would have been to meet in Milano and to discuss about those themes before the presentation. I hope that it will happen in a way or the other. So thank you again to both. I think it has been a great inputs for the students which are here with us today. A little bit in a silent mode as usual, but not so much. We had
next time we'll do it in presence.
Yeah,
I hope.
Yeah, we will be happy to invite you to Paris, Franco.
I love it. I would love it. Alas. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Giovanni and Ambra. Thank you, Franco, too.
Thank you, Jaime, and everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.